So yeah, it's like all you can eat crab and
Wow.
also all you can. I think you pay for drinks maybe, but
Wow. Oh, that hey,
oh, they're here. They're here.
we're out. We're in the audience. They're on the other side of this curtain.
Man, they love us.
Do you think they have crabs? No, no,
Some of
no,
them.
no, 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 no.
Some of them
Not
do.
not that kind of crabs. I'm
Oh,
talking about
like
I'm talking
guppies.
crustaceans. Oh wow, they loved that.
Yeah,
Give me that whistle.
clearly some of them have it. Oh, I turned it all
I
down.
want that train whistle.
Mm,
Yeah.
it's the train whistle.
Yep.
Whoops,
Yep.
whoops! I got an itchy train figure. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
You done?
We have some important business to get to. Good fade. Good fade. I'm really glad. A little behind the parting the kimono of the Comics Place, which is the podcast you're listening to. Comics Place presents a perfectly acceptable podcast, a comic book podcast hosted by several people who run a comic shop together and love one another and continue to grow in their personal relationships around the shared love of comic book and comic media. But in our world, at our comic shop, when Django and I are working together, you know, one of the things that I will do is if I'm not feeling a song, I'll change the song to another one. And believe me, I'm not going to waste time listening to the rest of the song I don't want to hear. I'm going to start the next one. However, you know, in a sort of change of roles, Django is a much more of an audiophile when it comes to song changes. So he'll always say nice fade. So I've got an insecurity about changing music abruptly. It really excites me that we've got this moment of Django not fading in one of the most important avenues we have in our entire professional and personal lives. I'm Jeff.
I'm Django the Fader.
I have something to
Sometimes.
talk to you about, Django.
Yeah.
And this is, we're on the stream of music, so that's okay. We're going to continue
Okay.
this before we get into our lively comic book discussions and hear from our media consultant, Will Elmer. Django,
Hit me.
I'm sure, as you know, and if you have said to me, I'm sure I will go through a period where I cannot get enough of this person's music. But I have given it several goes. I've listened to some albums. I watched a very thorough documentary about them. And I just recently got a video from my guy Django about them. And I just can't really bring myself to be interested in Frank Zappa.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's okay. He's not for everybody. Can you acknowledge his musicianitude?
Oh, I feel like if I could get some instrumental albums, I would love them.
Jeff,
Yeah.
the reason he made fart songs is because he wanted people to hear the instruments. He's got orchestral albums and instrumental
Okay.
albums.
All right.
There's a
Let's
ton of instrumental Zappa out there.
let's track that down because most recently Django sent me a video of somebody reacting to a Frank Zappa performance, and I was so ready to be like, "Oh, his musicianship is going to be insane," but it was a lot of just sort of like lower octave conversation about growing dental floss plants.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't even fathom caring about this dental floss
Okay, but
plant
the
thing.
music on that is so perfect and chaotic.
Yeah.
Right? Like the changes that he does, the abrupt stuff that lets you keep tapping your feet. I'll track down some recommended
Let's find it because
instrumental stuff for you.
I've got a real open mind about it, but you know, if it seems like the person isn't saying something of interest or substance, I'm like, I want to listen to somebody who's making me think about the future of humanity and society and personal growth.
Oh yeah.
And I bet he's got the, you know, Frank Zappa's got that Universal Orchestra personal growth album that I haven't listened to yet, but
Yeah, there's some stuff out there for you.
we'll get in there. We'll get in there. Anyway, still very open to it, and some of my favorite musicians are huge fans of his. I just haven't found the right thing yet.
Yeah, he talks in his book about how he decided to do novelty lyrics with real complex music.
Mm-hmm.
And later in life he started doing a lot more stuff with just straight up instrumental music and orchestras. I mean, his band was 19 pieces routinely. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to get in there. I'm going to
nice.
crack it one of these days. I just want you to know, I haven't given you follow up on that yet. I'm working on it. I'm getting there. We're all going to be Zappa hounds together, grow out those goatees. You and I are both going to grow out that long kind of Weird Al hair.
One of us will.
Buddy, if you weren't so committed to your brand, you could grow that thing out. You would have a full hair.
It's my head taking care of my brand right there.
Which is worth mentioning, folks, if you are listening to this without the visual cue of what Django's hair looks like, it's worth getting on the video feed. As we record these, they are live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, and you can always find them by searching us up on either of those platforms to look up previous episodes of it. We did recently come across a small wrinkle in the podcast feed. That is not our effort to just get everyone to transition to the video feed, although I do think it is the premium content at this point.
Sure.
Django, August 16th, Sunday, halfway between a Wednesday and another Wednesday. Got a stack of comic books here. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. I mostly spent the last few days reading comics and watching movies, and I saw 2 good movies this week.
Best movie you saw?
Probably The Rivals of Amaziah King.
Okay, I did read that bio in the Regal app.
Yeah, it's Matthew McConaughey, and just an interesting indie movie that it kept on not doing what I expected, which that's all I really want from a movie or a story at this point.
I totally agree. Yeah. Defy my expectations is my favorite thing. As you, the listener and viewer, are probably thinking, this is a comic book podcast put on by comic store owners. However, we have a deep love and interest of most media and pop culture. So you get little sprinklings of it everywhere that you go while you're in here. Django, I watched the 3rd Purge film.
Ooh.
And
was it PURG3? Is that how they spelled it?
No, but they should have. Oh, wow. You know, the Purge films are one of those things where, like, I think the conceit is kind of awesome and very compelling. And I don't feel like they've done a movie that capitalizes on how interesting that political conceit is. But I get it. It's a little bit less murder and a little bit more political. But that's what I want to see out of a Purge.
Like the other 364 days of the year where they're doing court cases and
exactly.
Like
How has this event shaped the political sphere and the lives of the everyday person 6 months away from a Purge?
Show me the SVU, the Purge.
Yes, exactly. Purge CVU, Purge VU.
Law and Order, the Purge.
And what I'm gearing up towards is hopefully a rewatch of the early 2000s film Josie and the Pussycats by the film industry. And I want to watch it with Sean.
Huh. Okay.
Did you ever see that?
Is that related to the Purge?
Yeah, the Josie and the Purge Cats.
Okay. The Purgy Cats.
Yeah. The Purgy Cats, which is a lot of birds vomiting, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, it's pretty interesting. Hey, do you mind if we check in with my good guy? But I wanted to say, we had some delays with the Spotify feed, the podcast app. So if you are encountering that, we are resolving it ASAP. You'll have a backlog of several episodes to be able to go through. But if in the meantime, you're somehow getting this, but not the others, and you haven't watched them, but you are now watching, we're going to get it fixed up. So don't worry about that. But on the topic of that issue, I've got an email from Will Elmer here, and I'm excited to get into it.
Will.
Oh, I had my
in your own time, sir.
Yeah. I had my phone volume down, as one is wont to do.
Mm-hmm. Is it still down?
Hello, and happy episode number 435, my friends. Hey, we had Absolute Batman that came out this week that had some spoiler stuff in it that, was, some would consider shocking. Maybe you guys will talk about it. Maybe you won't.
Probably.
But it did leave me wondering, what's a comic, that you've read in your lifetime, in your youth, or in your adulthood that shocked you, like legitimately caught you off guard and just left you shocked and speechless and made you want to get other people to read that book. Turn Up. Love you guys. Awesome.
I've never felt so loved by a turn up than when I get to hear from my friend and yours, William Elmer, the official fourth member of the podcast, or third in episodes like this.
Yep. That's turnips really do love us.
Yeah, and we love Will. A truly shocking comic book. A couple things, it's hard for me to parse out like shocking and riveting to the point where like I can't wait to read the next one, right? Like a
Sure.
cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes cliffhangers introduce something that's surprising that you want resolution to. So a couple things came to my mind that are similar to that. I would say the two like weekly comic reading experiences I had that had some of the most shocking, exciting things happen that required me to like somehow sit on my hands for a month until the next issue came out would have been Grant Morrison's Batman run.
Yep.
Because things would happen throughout it, particularly like the Batman and Robin arc, where I'd be like, that is insane. What are they going to do next? So that's definitely in there. And then I would say the other would be the Jonathan Hickman Powers of 10 House of X original miniseries that started that X-Men reboot, because he was laying down seeds and threads in every issue there that seemed insane and imaginative and caused me to like go back and look at previous issues and plot over what could maybe be happening. So each one of those had a pretty crazy revelation, especially the way that House and Powers interplayed. It makes me wonder, I hope in those collections, they collect it how it came out, like an issue of House, an issue of Powers, an issue of House, an issue of Powers.
Right?
They have to. Yeah, I would hope so.
That was the whole point, was to have
But
a
especially
reading
like
order
the
that.
infographics he was building in there, and then one of like a bunch of time frames going to an origin point, and like somehow the way that it was presented didn't like, it made you forget that like one of the specific lives isn't being represented. So like several issues in, you're like, wait, what? I'm gonna go back to this thing. Holy crap. So those are two that come to mind for me. What about your shocking revelation life?
I mean, real early on, before I was a comic collector and I was just reading comics that were Indiana Jones comics, because I liked Indiana Jones.
I've heard of him.
The final issue, before they canceled it without warning, had the reveal that Belloc was still around. The guy whose face melts.
Okay.
Or his face.
Glasses,
explodes.
kind of brimmed hat.
He's the French archaeologist.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of Tot, probably.
Probably.
Belloc's face head explodes, and apparently he was going to be resurrected in the comics. So that was a big deal for me, like a shocking revelation. As far as like periodic comics go, it all kind of goes back to Indiana Jones for me, man. He fell off a building once and he's falling through the air and you didn't know how he was going to get out of it. The next issue he catches onto a flagpole, and that was awesome.
Let's take a moment to talk about how that series was executed, right?
Sure.
Because there's a thing about the end of an issue that speaks to that I've thought is pretty fascinating.
Just like the cliffhangers.
Well, right? Like, didn't they not know for sure if each issue was going to like be the last or something? So, or like they would try to do these insane cliffhangers and like put the people in a weird spot, or maybe that was just the final issue with like a hover car and a rocket launcher. But like
that was the Shadow.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Shadow guys wrote their way into an impossible to solve problem at the end of the series because they were quitting, and then nobody picked it up after that.
I can't think of why on earth I would get the Shadow and Indiana Jones confused.
There's no answer to that. There's no way to know what the bridge in your brain would possibly be.
Yeah.
The reveal at the end of The Boys shocked me. And I don't want to say it out loud because people should muscle through 60 some issues of some of the hardest, most brutal comics out there to be rewarded.
It's one of
like
the
I was.
few secrets Django has kept from me in our 10 years of dancing.
Yeah. And I would say even like Preacher had some really surprising stuff happen in it where you're just like, whoa, I can't believe they did that. I I hope that answers Will's question.
You know, and as far as like everything going back to one thing, Django, if I were to bring up like shocking revelations in a comic series as of late, what am I going to say?
You?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are
Well,
you going to say?
I'm going to say that Berserk.
Berserk.
Yeah,
Right.
and like, you know, if you had probably loosened up your paradigm for what the answers for that could be.
For what a comic is or lately, yeah.
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 But as far as like some of the most shocking shit that I've ever read,
Mhm.
Berserk could be the one there. Will, thank you so much for contributing to this fair maiden voyage, the first episode of a new podcast venture from Django and Jeff. This is Comics Place Presents, a perfectly acceptable podcast. If you, dear listener or viewer, would like to contribute in some way to this creative endeavor, you could send an email, just like Will did, to an email address that Django created specifically for this podcast. It is jeff@thecomicsplace.com. That is the official Comics Place Presents Perfectly Acceptable podcast email link that goes right to my inbox and makes sure that it's going to get read on the podcast. So jeff@thecomicsplace.com. Send it, jeff@thecomicsplace.com. I do like that I can almost hear a tiny echo of myself through your headphones.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
It's because I'm a loud boy. Okay. We've got something to get into for this week of comics, and it is not Absolute Batman 23. However, we are going to discuss that, so hang with us. However, I've been on a bit of a cliffhanger myself for quite a while. This week saw the first issue of a series return by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, Batman and Robin Year 1. It was a 12-issue maxi series that I think was one of the best Batman books in many, many years. I think that as you're riding the weekly wave of comic books, especially folks like Batman, it can be easy to think about what is really good and exciting in that moment. But when I kind of step back and think about what's going to stand the test of time in 15 years, is this something that I'm going to be recommending? Batman and Robin Year 1 is one of those. I think it's like a definitively phenomenal Batman story that's incredibly written, and the art is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that they were coming back for a 12-issue run, the same creative team, I was very, very excited. However, I read this book on the second half of the week, and before I had read it, as Django was leaving the comic shop one day, he asked if I had read this, and I said, no, I had not yet. And he had some strong feelings that in that moment I interpreted as potentially negative feelings about it. However, now that I'm on the other side of having read that issue, I have been dying to know what the hell Django was talking about. So Django, Batman and Robin, Year 1, dynamic duos, Mark Waid, Chris Samnee. What's your complaint?
Oh, okay. First of all, gorgeous comic.
Oh my God,
Like,
it's gorgeous.
Solid writing, solid art.
Yeah.
Everything's really good. But there were 2 spreads in here that had panels going all the way across the top, and only one of them was clear that that's how you were supposed to read it.
Okay.
So the first one has like 4 panels across the top, and then one big splash underneath, and that straddles both pages, and that totally makes sense to me. That's fine. But then later we get to a part where Bruce and Alfred and Robin are talking, and you're supposed to read it in the same way, and there's no indication of the proper way to read those pages. And it just stood out to me as like just a really weird choice on the part of Chris Samnee.
Okay. I'm flipping through it, and
This right here. So it's like a 2-page. It's all horizontal.
Oh, yeah.
And you're supposed to read it across
Yeah.
instead of down each page. And there's nothing. There's maybe Alfred's shoulder overlaps on the top one, but
It does.
okay. But mine is misstapled. Look at that. I've got a panel break in there because of a bad binding, and
Well,
it's so subtle.
It is subtle, and mine also has the page staple division at a spot where like there's just a tiny bit of ink
Yeah.
that makes it not clear. Ouch. if it's a window or what.
It just seemed like amateurish for the professionalism I would expect from this artist.
That's really interesting. I, while reading this, was like obsessed with trying to figure out what Django had alluded to me as he walked out of the building. And I was like, is it story? Is it panel? Is it like, what is it? You know, spoilers for this book and all books in this video podcast. There is a character reveal in here, and it is Catwoman, and she's in her like OG original kind of like dress cat hair Catwoman outfit, which I think is awesome. But I was like, is he alluding to like retcons or, you know, her appearance in here or what? Yeah, that's an interesting point. When you have, yeah, that's fascinating. When you have a double page spread that is not built around being like a giant flashy image that spans the page width, you have to do something to make it clear what the reading order is here. And in this double page spread, the only instance of that is that Alfred's shoulder kind of breaks the panel line there, and you can see that it's both. I do not remember how I read this page. So I do not.
I read it twice.
I do not think that you are wrong, but it may not have tripped me up. I wonder if I did it correctly or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, you can also kind of speed read a lot of comics and read 2 pages and assemble it in your brain as you go. Like that's not the end of the world.
I would never.
But even like the other one, it is a 2-page spread of the Batcave, but it's pretty empty on the bottom one, and the characters are in it. So like, I don't know, a little more leading you by the nose would have been nice. That said, I can't really dock it that much. It's still a wonderful comic. Just stood out to me as kind of a belly flop on the panel layout.
I would say that if you're doing a double page spread that features a lot of action in the bottom and the thing that guides the person through the top being horizontal, like you should not necessarily divide it into 4 equally sized panels that therefore have a dividing line in the double page spread there. Okay, all right, everything makes a little bit more sense to me now. This was an issue that, you know, 3 or 4 pages in the beginning of the issue, and again, I had no idea what I was getting into when I started reading this, because I was like, I hope it's not bad. And the first 4 pages are just exactly what you would expect, like gorgeous art. And again, there is gorgeous art like, you know, Shaolin Cowboys Jeff Darrow or Steve McNiven or James Stokoe that have like this incredible amount of detail that you have to look at, and it makes you feel like this is incredible. And I feel like Chris Samnee is on like the opposite side of that, which is like the Darwyn Cooke side, which is it's so phenomenal because of how good it is at doing what it means to do, which is convey story between writing and art. And I think one of the big uncelebrated things in comics is that if a comic is really good at conveying the non-verbal story elements, it's easy to like look over it, which is a bummer because Darwyn and Samnee do a thing that is incredible, but maybe not super showy.
Yeah.
But on page 4, you have just this gorgeous splash page of a Colt looking down a well, and Batman's enshrouded in shadow, and he's standing on a bunch of bones. And I got to that point, and I was like, I don't know what Django's talking about, because this is really good.
It's also got Barbados references in it, which is pretty up Jeff's A.
Yep.
And by A, I mean alley.
Yep. And that's what also had me think. I was like, I wonder if he has like strong feelings about whether or not it's okay to bring back this like Batman Grant Morrison thing.
Yeah.
The first maxi series mostly dealt with the kind of human relationship between Bruce and Dick living together. There was like Child Protective Services brought in because they don't know if Bruce is providing a good situation for a young boy to be living in. And I don't even off the top of my head remember what the other kind of issue in it was, but
the bad guy in the wheelchair and his son.
Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, this one, I love to see those art ties carried forward, and I love seeing us lace in kind of other elements of the Batman mythos into it. I also considered like, okay, Django's got strong Frank Miller ties, and right here we're getting an early Catwoman thing. Maybe it disagrees with year one.
No, just the storytelling thing.
Yeah, man, I spent some time. I went through it a whole second time trying to predict what it was. But yeah, his ability to visually convey this in such a beautiful way, and then Mark Waid's ability to tap into the silver golden age of comics and make it feel like you're getting that today is amazing.
The art and the paneling on everything except those pages, like the body language on people is so good. I really like the scene where Bruce is getting held up in an alley with his date, and it's all sorts of scary and triggering for him.
That was an interesting thing to include. Yeah, and like it goes into that gray area of, is this Batman / Bruce's way of trying to like hide his Batman persona and like act, because anytime he's Bruce, he's acting, but also like, yeah, it didn't feel like that. It did feel like it threaded this needle of like, maybe he does have weird triggering moments of that, even though he's being mugged by kids and he's pretending to be an upright citizen brigade. That was a very interesting scene. These two could do any book together and I'd be ecstatic about it, but I'm very happy that it is a Batman book. I do think like Mark Waid is kind of the ambassador of classic DC Comics at this point.
Yeah, I don't read as much Mark Waid as you do, mostly because I dropped off of his main Batman Superman World's Finest series.
World's Finest. But
I do really enjoy what he's doing with Superman mostly, and I enjoy what he's doing with this run. So, I'd like to see him do some more modernish Batman, maybe. Just curious what he would do with Batman in the dumb DC universe that we have right now.
Yeah, I'm almost inclined to think he'd be more likely to do like a Justice League or something.
Yeah.
This book makes me think of something that's just been kind of floating around in my brain, which is the Absolute books are amazing. Like the bulk of them are incredible and so much fun. And they have that saga thing where each issue is amazing. And so it can be easy to almost stop talking about it, which, by the way, I did have to do some recon today about when we can expect to see Saga again, because it's been
100
coming up on 2 years since the last issue. But it does say that Fiona is working on the full arc right now, and we're supposed to see the first issue of that arc in 2026.
Like the full end arc, or
no, it's
just the next 6 issues.
Just the next 6 issues. Yeah, it's like it's had a predicted end issue of like 108 or something, and we're on 72 right now. But Mark, it made me think about those Absolute books and these Elseworld books that are so much fun and incredible for me, and specifically just me, when the main continuity or main incarnation of that character that they're doing an Elseworlds of isn't pretty good or doesn't feel worth reading or isn't like kind of classic, it can lower the value of my appreciation on the Elseworld book, which is to say that, like, for me, I appreciate poor Batman with living parents in a dump truck Batmobile more when I can also see rich Batman, straight edge with his adoptive kid and butler at the same time, because a strong instance of how this thing is different than this thing makes me appreciate that more. And when the main series of a character like isn't thriving, my brain almost just sort of starts to switch towards like, this is Batman. Like
Right.
without a good Batman book outside of Absolute Batman, I would just kind of be thinking that that's Batman. And
Yeah.
my appreciation for that would kind of lose the other thing. So anyway, this book makes me appreciate like Absolute Batman more. And I appreciate this one more, having Absolute Batman exist. So those counterpoints I think are important. So as strong as the Absolute books are, I feel like they gain extra strength by still having their regular 616 air quotes
Sure.
equivalents, having a thriving book as well. So that's what I've got.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. I think all the Batman and Superman is pretty solid right now, along with the other ones, the absolutes. I would give this an 8.5. Roman is going to give this a 9.5. And I'll bet Jeffrey Figley has a score as well.
I'm gonna go 9.5. As well as Romans.
Nice.
I love a cartoonist. I love an artist who is emphasizing the entire story structure in their art. And I think that oftentimes it's not as flashy to like the uninformed public. But I think it's like Somni is amazing. I want artist editions. I want everything of it. So even the Mark Waitedness aside, like getting a beautiful Batman book like this is nearly perfect. And I'm only saying not a 10 because I spent a large amount of time trying to figure out what was wrong with it. So, yeah. So happy to have our friend Arsenic Lullaby back in the camp. Our schedules meant that we were passing like ships in the night for a little while, but for some reason, 2:30 on a Sunday is our time to get to hang out with him. And it's nice because he's one of my favorite stops at any given convention we go to.
Did you say shits in the night?
Yeah.
Okay. I've
Yeah.
never heard that term before.
If you are listening or watching this and you're unfamiliar with Arsenic Lullaby, you should come into our shop because Django has always had a copy of Arsenic Lullaby hidden in his coat, ready to give anybody. But also, if you're going to a convention, hit this guy's booth up. Like, he's there. He's doing the work. He'll sketch for you, not to throw him under the bus, but total badass. So 9.5 for me.
Will you tell me about a book
Yeah,
that I didn't get?
I would love to tell you about a book that you didn't get. Were you able to get your dirty little paws on Regicide? Well
I was
predicted.
not. I want to hear about it.
Sweet. Image Comics put out a new book this week by Patrick Kendallin with art by Ludovic Lalott.
Yep.
So the reason I had to squint and stare at my screen is that I brought my copy back to put on the shelf to sell to somebody on Wednesday. That might make you wonder, Jeff, why didn't you just order more of it? Well, that's a great question, listener and critical viewer. This is a book put out by Patrick Kendallin, who was pretty involved in the kind of early stages of Black Mask and has moved on to be doing a lot of more series with Image Comics. He has a certain amount of curmudgeonliness to him, but I always make a point to read his books. Recently, in the last couple of years, he wrote Frontiersman and Gehenna, and, in the Black Mask days, did a lot more other things. But consistently, we have a pretty static subscriber rate for a Patrick Kendallin book. He's a little on the fringe, like he's a little edgy. Gehenna, the most recent one, was like a female assassin, but it was very like sexploitation and nudity driven. Frontiersman, also a little edgy, like I'm doing a mainstream superhero book, but I don't feel okay about that, so I'm going to kind of make fun of stuff. And for whatever reason, that doesn't translate in our store, specifically our store, to a huge number of subscribers. So I ordered 10-ish or so. However, this book, Django, it was like Patrick Kendallin's take on Conan. So like Frontiersman was kind of his take on, nature superhero. Yeah. Gehenna was like, again, his take on sexploitation.
Tigress Island too.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, exactly. Tigress Island. Thank you. This one has a real strong Conan vibe to it. And if it were just the writing, I think it would be fine. However, this artist, Ludovic Lalott, absolutely amazing. Kind of Daniel Warren Johnson-esque. Again, I don't have my
What I'm
copy
getting.
in front of me because I brought it back. My hope had been to take home one of the B covers, which was a variant done by a different artist. I'm not sure who, of this character from the issue that's like a bug lady, like a sexual bug lady. Which I
That
guess
one,
just brings me,
that one was by Adam Cyber. All
yeah,
one word.
another person whose name I was not familiar with. So
Yeah.
like Patrick Kendlin, I do think has a pretty great eye for finding artistic contributors to work on a book with that can. I think that like even in just talking about his most recent books, there's like a meta quality to it. It's like I'm familiar with a genre and I want to put my spin on it, which is a little bit more top down than being like, I'm really into Conan and I want to write a Conan book.
Right.
It's more like enjoying genre and understanding the way that you can put a twist on it. So I think that his eye for artists oftentimes has that kind of like meta quality to it, where he can think about how that art will look relative to a subject matter of a book. And this one is like super dark fantasy. It's kind of medieval, but deeply dark fantasy as well. There are aspects to it that reminded me of Berserk, just in terms of like gorgeous double page spread, establishing shots. And, I put Patrick Kendlin sort of in a group with like Chuck Palahniuk, which is like people who are aware of like base level human interesting things. Like Chuck Palahniuk is like, porn, violence, food, like all of these things that have an immediate visceral kind of response in a human. And I think Patrick Kendlin does that as well, but sprinkles it out into different genres. So Regicide was just one of the cooler, tweaks on a Conan book that has really pretty gorgeous art that, like our friend Arsenic Lullaby said, it's got a grimy look to it as well. So I would really encourage people, if you have, a nostalgic interest in Conan, or if you are like swords and sorcery, but like maybe a little bit postmodern, like maybe I am a little bit, like I love like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Demon Souls. This is like that. Like it's got almost a strong Dark Souls feel, which is like Conan-esque things with a weird sort of Lovecraftian horror element to it. Nice. So again, we sold out at our store. If you're listening and watching this, there will be a second print, and we are going to order a handful of it because I really liked this book, and especially having sold out before I can get it to my counterpart, Django, I was like, Django, don't worry. I've got one in my bag. You'll read mine. And then we sold out like midway through Wednesday, and somebody was like, hey, do you have it? And I was like, I do. I have one for you. But the only person that will suffer here is Django. And he lives.
I can read a second printing.
So, yeah, I'm going to give Regicide #1. I think probably the highest score I've given a Patrick Kendlin book. And I'm going to give it a 9.
Nice.
It's really good and really in that kind of squidgier fringe era of Image Comics. So strong endorsement.
Awesome.
Django, tell me about something that I didn't read.
I got one you didn't read.
You do.
Jeff Cowboy. We're just taking a little break before we go back to Batman and Spider-Man.
Yeah, we got some Bats and Spider for you, Arsenic. Don't worry.
Shaolin Cowboy. What is this called? Staying AI Live.
Oh,
like staying alive.
Jeff Darrow's always topical, man.
Dude, this book is, I mean, everything Jeff Darrow does is gorgeous and dense and kind of impossible to catch all of the little things that he adds on a panel. There's a panel here, just flipping through it. I missed this the first time I read it. There's the Shaolin Cowboy just walking down a porch, and under the porch there's a bunch of skeletons. I didn't catch those on the first time I read it.
He can do that. He hides truths and mysteries in every side panel.
Yeah, you got to read like every bit of graffiti. You got to look at each bird to see what the bird is doing. It's just so good and so dense. He kills a guy with a booger in the beginning of this, which is pretty rad. that he
That's
flicks
very
through the guy's phone.
it's very Django.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like it's also serious and has good peril and bugs, and this one has a kind of a mystery. He discovered a bottle with a note in it in the middle of the desert in the first issue, and he's trying to find the parents of the kid that wrote the note because he's probably been murdered and left in the desert. So he's trying to give them some closure, and meanwhile he's being chased by icy agents, and they're all just bumbling red-hatted fools trying to catch him and kill him, and he's much better than they are. Yeah, I can't imagine sitting down and drawing panel after panel of 30 dudes with guns and hats. Right? It's
all I can
fabulous.
imagine is that he wakes up, he drinks a cup of coffee, he takes 2 tabs of acid and sits down at an artist table and is done when he's done.
Yep.
Like, it's just like, well, today I got the acid in the coffee and the double page spread. We're just going to get through. Like, it's
let's draw
psychedelic and detailed.
Let's draw some building windows.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah. All day long. Django, it's got me wanting to and have an idea planted in my head, but our friend, and I'm not going to dox him. I'm not going to say his name. So I'm just going to say Arsenic Lullaby, but we got to get Arsenic Lullaby to be on the video with us one of these days and talk about some of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because, he said Darrow's line work maddens me, and I'm immediately curious, like what aspect of it maddens you? But that like Winsor McKay Mobius level line work. Absolutely. Those are some of my favorite people. But then also it's got me thinking like this is called the Shaolin Cowboy staying AI live. I'm curious, just like a cartoonist in our chat right now, the impact of AI and what Arsenic Lullaby is feeling on AI is and the relationship with art and creating comics and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know that the AI has anything to do with this specific book. Like
Just
even
the
in the
title?
story, just the title. I think
Okay.
Jeff Darrow likes a pun as much as he likes drawing. So, there's this book is so full of puns and goofy gags, and yeah. I mean,
Weren't we together when we stopped at his? Yeah, we were at his booth at Emerald City Comic Con, and he was just like drawing sketches and books. If you bought a graphic novel, he was going to draw a thing in it. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I've got 2 of them right next to me right now. Yeah,
amazing.
He's so good. He's super kind too.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only give it a 10. It's some of the finest craft out there. The story is fine. The art makes up for any lack of story that you could possibly have. So,
and I love it. Arsenic Lullaby says that topic is too long for me to type. TLDR is everything about it is bad.
Wow.
Yeah. I would just love to get to crawl inside the mind a little bit of somebody who like is an artist and is facing, the impacts of it and what it affects. And how it
to be clear, AI, not Jeff Darrow.
Right, exactly.
I thought he was saying he hates Jeff Darrow, and I was like,
no,
I'm really confused now.
No, I don't think that. But I totally agree. Nature is a creative process at its roots. I totally agree. And I think being able to fail and explore and spend time on things and watch how it's received and modify and dial knobs up and down of our own creative process is one of the great things about it. So it's the human part of all of it. So you gave it a 10.
10. Easy 10 for me.
Well, listen, we've got our friend Arsenic Lullaby here. Do you think we should jump into Absolute Batman 23?
Absolutely.
That guy loves Batman.
He's a big bat head.
I would talk about less Batman if he wasn't around, but he is, so he's here, and so is Batman. So Absolute Batman, this should be no surprise to anybody. This is Absolute Batman 23, Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta on art. Nick Dragotta, an artist that we've loved for very, very long. One of the very first book club books that we ever did at our shop was East of West. We went through that whole series. Obviously, that's Dragotta Fest, and it's beautiful. This is continuing the Straw Man arc, which I think we all know is Scarecrow. But we get some appearances of Absolute Clayface, I guess, without having a ton of names. We have a huge spoiler, which we're going to get into here in just a second, but it's also maybe the introduction of the mad schizophrenic detective, photos on a wall, red strings tying things together. First appearance of that character in this Absolute Batman series. And one of the better double page spreads for credits we've had. Just a giant picture of somebody swinging a bloody bat. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. This was not my favorite issue.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it about it that made you poop?
I just feel like Bruce is out of character. I'm really, really, really tired of him fighting big dudes.
He's out of character, like the character that's been established in the 22 episodes prior.
Being a total dick to everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I think if I know what the spoiler that you're talking about is, I think it's fine, but I didn't care that much about it. Yeah, this just didn't tickle me like most of these issues do. And I really, he fought a giant Bane who was as big as a building. I don't need him to fight more big guys.
Yeah.
Especially if they're smaller than a building.
Well, have you seen how big he is?
Yeah, but the Robins are bigger than him. It's just Batman versus Kaiju over and over and over. And
yeah, you're right.
I'm sick of it.
You're right.
I don't.
You're right. Whoa. Okay, let's just
I think it's dumb.
Are we sick of it? Is it dumb? Let's just bring everything back to a conscious, intentional sphere of ideas.
I don't like it.
Oh, okay.
I really like if he just keeps on fighting guys that are taller than him. I'm gonna lose all interest in it.
This is Absolute Scarecrow, who is smaller than him.
But he hasn't fought Absolute Scarecrow. He's fighting Absolute Clayface, and he just finished fighting the Robins.
Well, but Django, he's fighting the psychological effects of Scarecrow throughout all of this, which is a metaphorical, ethereal concept. Like, again, Scarecrow, fear, and the thing that he's instilling in Batman is uncertainty, and therefore fear, and his understanding of his self, what's happening with his parents, all, and like causing him to be paranoid and have his crew turn against him. And then he fights big Robins.
Yeah, I just don't like the big things.
Yeah,
it's the same as cosmic events for me, where I just how's he actually going to fight this? It doesn't make any sense. The Bane one did make sense. They made me buy that conceit, and the rest of these I just haven't. I'm just losing interest in Batman versus bigger Batman.
Yeah, totally. And I don't mean to tease. I do totally get that. And I hadn't really thought about that until you say it, but you're right. This has been a series, like Nick Dragata is heavily influenced by manga and anime, Japanese culture. Kaiju dumb is a big part of it. So that idea of a small thing taking on a large thing, a la Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, whatever it is. That's a good point. I do think that they are falling into that a little bit.
Maybe it's on purpose. Like I trust Scott Snyder to not make that mistake, but it just feels samey.
Yeah, I think that if it's on purpose, it's just that like, oh, I really like drawing this stuff. Okay, cool, let's do that, But you're right. I think some of the most interesting stuff in this issue is like when his old friends, who we know are on the path to being a bunch of supervillains, when they show up and have a conversation with him, that transition is something I'm very interested in. Again, the things I remember about this issue are not the fights and the bigness and the small big guy overcoming the big guy. But what I did like about this, and this is where the spoilers come in, is we've got Batman out here doing his thing, hunting down Straw Man, and then like kind of out of nowhere with not a huge explanation, we get Absolute Clayface fighting him. So he's a much bigger Batman fighting an already big Batman. But two of the Robins go out to find him. And those Robins, I believe, are Tim Drake and Jason Todd, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And at some point near the end, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to kill Jason Todd here. Because, like Jason Todd, famously the Robin that died, because the Joker, the Absolute series are supposed to like kind of echo the main continuity, although this one goes pretty far away from echoing it. And in here we do have a Robin die, but it is not the Robin that you would expect.
Yeah.
So, I think that when it comes to things like the Ultimate Universe or the Absolute Universe, there's a pretty big number of people who get a kick out of it because you get to see the way this alternate take handles things you're familiar with, like Jason Todd dying. So you're like, oh, they're doing the Jason Todd death thing. And like, if your singular interest in it is like watching how closely or alternatively it handles the same things a different continuity did, there's probably a smaller return on investment there. But when you can loosen up and get excited about it doing a very different thing, maybe that will allow more creative freedom to the people making the thing. So this one is still, like it's still baiting the people to be like, oh, cool, it's handling this thing, like in the way that like very typically the Ultimate Universe did, like Ultimate Spider-Man, right? Like Eddie Brock was Venom and all this stuff. But like, I really enjoyed this issue. I am still really liking the art. The most compelling parts to me were not the action set pieces, which I do think they excel at, but I don't think they're super interesting to me. Like character work, personality development, relationship, those are the things that I'm interested in, but I still did a fair amount of that. What were you gonna say?
What did you think of the flashback reveals that he was a Batman for Falcone? Get it? An enforcer with a bat.
That probably falls a little bit in that category of like, look how interesting I can be moving the strings around from this thing that you already know. I feel like on some level, this is Bruce Wayne. He has a different relationship with his parents, a different relationship with money, and a different relationship with the city itself.
Yeah.
All of that is awesome. Okay, cool. That is the Elseworlds of it. Now go out and do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And I think that when you have that freedom, it can be easy to fall into the like, oh, but I am going to reference this thing from the main universe. And like, Falcone, cool. Crime Family, you were a Batman. All right. That's maybe it's a little bit on the nose. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the idea that Bruce was working as a bad guy for a while is maybe interesting, but he already blew his wad being too pure to be an enforcer in this issue. So
the things I'm more interested in are following up on what's going on with his parents, because that's like a thing where it's foundationally different than the main universe, right? Like, so his mom is back. She's alive. There's a mystery from the previous issue about his dad maybe being alive.
Right.
That's pretty interesting. So I want to see that evolve, and I like those mysteries there. I do get a kick out of a Robin dying, and I will say that I appreciated that it wasn't the same Robin dying. But there is a weird kind of like almost that Patrick Kindlon, Chuck Palahniuk, like surface level immediate gratification that comes when you're like, oh, a Robin's about to die. And I know that because this Robin died and it's going to be that guy. Like there's a sort of surface level thing that taps into. And I think probably as a creator, I would imagine that maybe one of the hard things is not leaning into that because again, it's instant gratification, but I think the payoffs are harder because you're then just getting closer to the source material. So
yeah,
I give it an 8.5. I probably would have said a 9 before we talked, but you threw sand on my glasses.
I'm gonna give this one a 7.
Whoa!
I'm sticking with it, but I just want more not big guys.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's gonna happen.
That hadn't occurred to me, and I think that is a really interesting point. Like at this point, 23 issues in, we are falling into a rhythm, and when you've got a book that's supposed to be so outside of the usual that you don't ever like, you appreciate it because you don't know whatever's happening. having a consistently big guy being the threat, and then our already big guy needing to be bigger. But makes me think about like Dragon Ball Z and training and becoming stronger, and basically threats are introduced by just being bigger and stronger. But
yeah, and maybe it's a manga thing that I just don't resonate with. What's up with Gastronomique? I didn't read it, but it looked interesting.
So Gastronomique by Boom Studios is written by Marguerite Bennett with art by Helena Macelis and Nisha Singh. You know, I was excited to read this because Marguerite Bennett doesn't have an insanely huge catalog of work, but the work that she's done is pretty resonant with people. My first memories of Marguerite Bennett were the Aftershock book Insects. And I forget who did the art in that. It was almost like Rossimo-esque. But it was like gross sexual stuff, which, I mean, I got a theme here, but like going into that Chuck Palahniuk thing of like art that has a visceral response and like an immediate thing that many people have in common, regardless of how our personalities develop. There are these fundamental like driving things, and sex and violence are some of those things. So Marguerite Bennett oftentimes has a sexual component to her work, like Insects. Monstrous, maybe one of the few things that is not overtly sexual, although there is like a lot of body stuff in there that kind of shines a light on that stuff. But this one I thought was pretty interesting. Django, we're in like old France, like old day France. And we've got some like people, we got like a whorehouse. We got, you know, a bunch of people having humps inside there. We meet some people that work there and the people around the world. But what we're particularly introduced to is there is this person, Tarare, and he's like a noble amongst this world of women who work in these homes, and he can just like open his mouth and eat anything. So we see shots of him like eating a snake and approaching a table, and he is driven by an insatiable hunger. He can eat a roast now and her suckling litter and still be ravenous for more. So there is some duality being drawn between like physical appetite and sexual appetite, and like maybe there is some murderous stuff. But by the end, after he's eaten snakes and stuff, we've got two women making love in a bath and this guy eating snakes and then piling, like going to a corpse pile, and he starts eating a bunch of corpse body parts. Yeah, it seems like an exploration of that kind of, you know, like the book Perfume, which was adapted to a movie. You know, those books that like draw some line between sexual appetite and then also like appetite for life or food or other things. And the idea of an unstoppable appetite. So we don't get a ton of idea of necessarily who these people are, but we meet a couple women who seem to seek refuge in their relationship with each other from one of these, you know, prostitution houses. And then also this timeless male who's eating people and women. I did not get a huge idea of what this story was going to be about or what it was working towards from this first issue, which is totally fine because I think, you know, Marguerite Bennett wrote Monstrous, which is one of the most successful Image comics that came out of that 2012, 2015 boom of Image books. And while it's slowed down, has a huge fan base still. But yeah, I think, you know, what stands out is this is a book that sort of strikes a line between, you know, sexual deviance and other like indulgences wrapped inside a kind of old France historical tale. So, you know, if you like sexual horror, which is a huge genre, and old France, I think this is for you. And, you know, like the first issues of Monstrous or even Insects are like valuable, hard things to get. So I would say that if you are into comics for collecting potentially valuable things that will make an imprint on pop culture, this is one to check out and put inside of you, much like when you eat a severed thigh. So yeah, you know, I like boobies and blood as much as the next person. But I would give this book a 7.5.
All right. 7.5.
Yeah. And I like that Marguerite Bennett does have like a strong through line in the different works that she does. And I think that if you like one, much like Jonathan Hickman, you will probably like the others that they've done. So
yeah. Nice. Can I tell you about a book I read that I really liked?
I want you to so bad.
I don't think you read this one.
Oh, I haven't read this since the first issue.
Okay.
But I did like the first issue.
Yeah, that's because Chris Condon and Charlie Adler are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
This is Of the Earth number 4. It's a very slow movie that we're watching here. It's like we're still in the grandma's house. We've barely seen anything horrific, although in this issue, the grandma starts being a little more acrobatic than an old lady should be, jumping around on...
Gotta be careful with agile elderly.
Yeah, agile elderlies with knives and stuff. But it's just, you know, that first issue had pacing that stood out to us from like the way that she stops to help the dog or the coyote, and
I remember that.
Just like 4 pages of a small moment that was sort of decompressed. And this is picking up the pace, but you still get lingering on things like when she's walking through the yard, the grandma's walking through the yard to do a thing. It's kind of slow. You're not getting like, I don't know, 30-foot jumps. You're getting just like little tiny clips of what it's like to walk through the grass with this old lady in those shoes. So yeah, I don't know how long this is. Let's see here. Of the Earth, it's only going to be 6 issues, so
we're near the end.
This is number 4. Really, really good, really well done. I'm going to give it a 9, and I'm looking forward to being able to sell the trade paperback because it's going to be up there with, like, you know, when somebody wants something kind of horror-y and kind of mystery, this is going to be similar to the first volume of That Texas Blood, or something spooky from Brubaker and Phillips. That
Dude,
kind of craft.
Chris Condon is doing really interesting things in the comic world. Like, they kind of busted out with that Brubaker Phillips introduction of crime stuff, but they're doing mainstream Marvel stuff and simultaneously obscure Image stuff. I love that they clearly have an appetite for comics as a whole and not just wanting to tell superhero stories or something.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's I'm super glad to see more and more stuff coming from him.
Django, did you read Miles Morales #1?
No, I did not. Did you?
Yeah, I did. It's just worth mentioning that, like, you know, we just had Spider-Man Brand New Day come out, which anytime we get one of those Tom Holland Zendaya Spider-Man movies, it always causes me to kind of jump back into Spider-Man. So I've been playing the PS5 port of the Spider-Man PS4 game, which is awesome because there were so many love letters to that game in that most recent movie. But here we've got a new Miles series starting, and Miles has been doing like space stuff and like multiversal stuff with like the Ultimate Universe bridging our universe. And it has, and like he was a vampire in that Dark Reign book. So like the things that I love about Miles or Spider-Man in general, he has been pretty far removed from. And this is a return to Miles as like a street level character. But the thing that's most notable about it is that it's written by Brian Edward Hill, who you and I both like a lot. He did the Michael Cray tie-ins to the Warren Ellis Wildstorm book. And then after that, he did American Carnage, which we liked a lot. He doesn't do a ton of comic books. And when he does, I really like them. He's a person of color who does a great job of like making things not just feel like characters that are owned by white rich people at Marvel or whatever. So even just like down to the language feels very authentic. Again, it's him kind of returning to a street level thing. There is a female that he meets early on, and Brian does a pretty fantastic job of like slow boiling a romance between them, but not so slow that you can't pick up on it in the first issue. I really like the idea of kind of like a high school romance drama with a Spider-Man, because Peter, that's one of my favorite things about Spider-Man and Peter Parker, but he's like a grown-up adult now. So exactly. I want that soap opera stuff. So it's got that. We're tying into Miles' dad, Jefferson Davis, who is a police officer. We've got a big old burly, muscly man that I don't recognize that maybe other people would, because I haven't kept up with everything. But what I would say is, if you like Into the Spider-Verse or Miles and like the character and the stories, but don't necessarily always love the comics because they can kind of use him in a utilitarian way to tell editorial things, this seems like a more authentic return to Miles Morales. They are bringing back his classic costume. Genki is in it. All of the people are written very well. The relationships are written really well. And there's a couple pages that have a fill-in artist here, and that fill-in artist is Valentine Delandro, while Nico Leone does the main art in it. And the Valentine Delandro art almost has a kind of Somni-esque sort of shadowy, chunky, dark look to it. So I'm into that. So if you, like me, love Spider-Man, but don't always love every single comic coming out, I do think that if you're a Miles fan or you're just having Spider-Man withdrawals, this Miles Morales Spider-Man #1 that just came out from Marvel is very good. I would give it an 8.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good score.
It's a good score. Django.
What?
I've got the hunt for maybe some common ground.
Okay.
Are you still reading Firestorm?
I brought this one home, but I haven't read it.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear about it, though. Spoil it for me.
I liked it a lot. This one is largely leaning on some kind of like dual narrative stuff going on. So I think in the previous issue when we talked about it, you had drawn a comparison between it and the recent Ginny Sparks issue, which I think is very apt, because that had Captain Atom kind of having the humanity from him removed and just being sort of like a nuclear force of will. What we've been exploring with Jeff Lemire in this series is basically Firestorm without the two people that have been fused together that make up his consciousness,
Right.
having a role. So he's like this objective, immoral, not immoral, like anti-moral, but just
Amoral.
without moral character. So we've been following him around as this giant nuclear threat. What they're doing with the time jumps that I think is pretty cool is that they are having artists swap, and I want to get the actual artist credits in here. So this has got Rafael Delatorre. Oh, wow. He's doing all of the art, but he's just switching styles pretty well.
I really like the old school style with the halftone dots and everything in there.
It's got like a 70s look to it, Justice League stuff that I really like. But
and they're all in their superpowers costumes too.
Yep, totally. And that all like that is taking place as like maybe so like Firestorm is like an old professor and a young high school student, and they're fused together with this thing, and the Matrix, and they are Firestorm together, and usually both of their consciousnesses talk to each other. In this, the old man has been removed, and the body of the young person is missing, and his consciousness is sort of trapped inside Firestorm underneath, kind of tamped down by just this amoral Matrix fusion thing, Captain Atom type thing. So anytime that we are kind of getting a glimpse of the way that Robbie sees the world, it's that Silver Age classic look.
Okay.
But a modern day character that Robbie had a relationship with, and I forget her name, Lorraine. She's got a superhero name. But in here, we've got her basically kind of for the first time breaking through to the person underneath this horrific nuclear thing. But the thought that it made me have is that I think that kind of after the golden age of comics, and I'm not good at my ages and era naming, but I would guess like 70s and 80s, I think that we started to introduce more characters like Firestorm or Captain Atom that are like God level omnipotent things. And the way that comic books decided to try and deal with that was by introducing strange hindrances to them. So like Firestorm is like, yeah, you could be God or Martian Manhunter or Superman. However, you're two consciousnesses sharing a body. And so you're always having an argument about that. In the way that like Spider-Man has is like, well, but you're also a high schooler.
Right.
And I think that a lot of those characters, as we try to make them interesting in the modern day, those things that held them back, that made them more realistic originally, are things that are like difficult to work around in a compelling way. I'm thinking of the fact that like Superman, everybody loves Superman. But in the like 90s and 2000s, my whole life growing up, it was very in vogue to be like, he's got too many powers. I just don't like him. He's not interesting. And I feel like a way that people were countering that were being like, well, he's like Superman, except for this interesting thing of two personalities fighting for control. And I feel like in the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of attempts at trying to make those characters interesting and do something like what Jeff Lemire is doing right here with it.
Well, a lot of times what they do with those, including in the Jenny Sparks book,
Yeah.
and kind of what Alan Moore explored with Watchmen, is like they take away those human limitations, right? It's the human part that's limiting them. Even with Superman, like
Sure.
the human part of
The
Superman, is what
morality,
makes him-
yeah.
And Firestorm, it's this argument or agreement between the two entities inside of him, inside of this ultimate power. And with Captain Atom, like it was his moral compass. It was that always keeps him under control. But when he doesn't have that, things go really bad.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, you know, comics as a whole are trying to kind of explore ways to get some extra work out of these characters, like the Hawkmans or the Firestorms, or even like the Martian Manhunters, right? Like, we haven't been able to make this work recently, so we got to try an alternate take on it.
Yeah.
And again, that's not a criticism or anything, but it just feels like there is an era of superheroes that's kind of like the second wave, silver age of them, where we haven't really been able to quite figure out how to make them work again like they did when they originally happened. So this one reminded me of that, and I think they are doing something interesting with it. Jeff Lemire, typically one of my favorite indie comic creators, but when he does big two work, it doesn't normally like resonate with me. However, Absolute Flash and Fury of Firestorm are both books that I am liking more than his past superhero books. So yeah, if any of that's interesting to you, kind of exploring, trying to find an older character and make them relevant, but in a way that is kind of interesting and compelling, this is doing it better than a lot of those things are. It does, again, kind of remind me of the Jenny Spark Captain Atom thing. But I would give Fury of Firestorm number 5 and 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish it. It's 8 issues long. I'll keep reading it. The last issue was pretty rough for me, but you know, I do like me some Jeff Lemire.
It's interesting that it is also finding a larger readership base than I expect it to. Like, as the person ordering comics, like, my gut sort of tells me, based on conversation in the store and out of the store, what I think I should order. And this one exceeds that significantly. So I do like that DC and their Next Level initiative are captivating readers and making them want to check these things out. So it speaks to a big strength that they're having in the industry right now.
Nice.
I've only got one more that I think both of us read. And I hope both of us read it, but maybe not.
Do you want to whisper the name of it?
It's got Clay in it.
I did read that. Let's go back to Gotham City, but
well,
no Batman,
we still got
guaranteed.
We still got our friend Arsenic Lullaby here, so he loves a bat combo. So this doesn't have any bats in it. Dude, yesterday I started watching the Netflix documentary Louis Theroux's Into the Manosphere.
Okay.
Have you watched that?
No, I'm not really a Manosphere fan, Jeff.
Shockingly, yeah. You know, I obviously am. You can tell by my calves and toned muscles. No, honestly, I hadn't gotten into it because of that very reason. Like, I don't really know anything about these Manosphere creators, but I know they're having a pretty large negative impact on especially like young men growing up.
Yeah.
And like YouTube and all these things make it pretty hard to distinguish who is a credible source or not. But I do like Louis Theroux a lot, and what compelled me to finally watch it was an interview between he and Andrew Callahan from Channel 5 News.
Oh, nice.
And watching two pretty great reporter documentarians have a conversation was pretty cool. So I was like, I want more access to this guy's brain. I mentioned all of that to say that Clayface Celebrity Dirt #2 that was out this week, written by Jude Ellison Doyle with art by Fran Galan, kind of touches on aspects of it. It's written by Jude Ellison Doyle, who I believe is a woman, and it kind of touches on the toxic masculinity personalities that exist in this manosphere. Like, you got a guy that we kind of see multiple times who's talking about what a man is and testosterone and masculinity. And then as we're spending some time in the backgrounds of this, following our Clayface guy who's trying to take down the person who's taking his identity, or I guess Carlo. We don't really necessarily know after the first issue, like, do they all have the same personalities or memories? Is the guy that we're following different than this other person? Anyway, there's also then on top of that manosphere stuff, kind of a strong like Me Too thread of like the post Weinstein, like horrible people in Hollywood, and our guy Clayface, who's a bad guy, but we're hanging out with him, is like trying to take his place back from this person taking his place, but like maybe that person is like kind of Weinstein-esque.
I don't think either of them were good. Like, I think he was a jerk before he turned into Clayface, and I think that the dude who's taken his place, who I think is probably also a Clayface, is also a turd.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
What I kind of wonder is, are we going to find out that like he's only part of himself? Right? Is he this Clayface that we've been following, and also did he like break off and become his old self as well? Right? Are there two Clayfaces here? One from half the clay and another from the other half of the clay, and they're both like dirtbags.
I feel like, kind of following up on some of the threads introduced in the first issue, where they kind of mention that they all have the same genetics or something. Like, I feel like we're probably dealing with the fact that there are multiple, maybe more than two Clayfaces, and all of them assume that they're the real one, kind of like in Multiplicity or The Prestige, where like a clone is created, but the person who is the clone and is the original can't really tell the difference, because up until that point they have the exact same memory and stuff. So like, I bet both of them are convinced they're the real one, and we don't really know. And that's been done in Batman before.
Yeah, probably so. I just think this is a really good horror kind of setup. And
I agree.
I don't know if you've been reading the 100 Bullets US of Anger, but that is also touching on like right-wing podcast stuff as well. They're like the bad guys in that book, and it's interesting to see just how that has become another sort of type of person or type of media that you can have in. I mean, it's always weird to see when I see podcasts being used as a thing. Like what was the one that Jeremy Hahn just wrapped up, murder podcast? Like that's, I don't know, maybe it's because as a white guy of a certain age, we're legally required to have a podcast, so it resonates with us. But I'm really enjoying this, and I love the horror elements of it. I saw a trailer for the upcoming Clayface movie, and that looked also awesome. Like really good body horror, really gross stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, let's touch on a couple things that our friend Arsenic Lullaby has mentioned. On topic of the cover, he says that's 10 pounds of technique in a 5-pound bag. That's why Darrow is so good. He loads up detail, but there is harmony to it. This cover visually steps on itself all over the place. And I want to mention that because while I really like the art in this book, my main complaint is in the interior pages of it. Because of the nature of this story, where we have a clay figure who can take other people's physical shape, that is happening pretty consistently throughout it. And I finished this book and needed to make another pretty thorough pass through it to
Mhm.
try and figure out which of these people were real people or which was Clayface. And I don't necessarily think that it was happening in a way that is like intentional. I think that there are aspects to it that I was like, I think this is probably clearer to the cartoonist or artist in here than it is to me, the reader, as to
Yeah.
what exactly is going on or what the moral compass of these different characters are. So that's my only complaint about it. But I do think it's written really well. And I do really like the art. But in terms of a 22-page thing that should make sense internally from page to page, I struggled a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
But I'm going 8.5, big guy,
8.5
on the
yeah,
Richter.
I think I'm going to give it an 8.5 too. I think it's a good comic.
It is.
I hope that they stick the horror landing and it stays. Like, I hope Batman doesn't show up and punch at the very end. I hope we don't see anybody. Like, I would accept a Jim Gordon and
Yeah, I
almost
don't need
nobody
Batman.
else from Gotham City.
I don't need Batman.
This is like a good horror thing outside of all that. And just giving us the Clayface quote unquote rules is enough.
Yeah. And I would say that with like the trailer for that new Clayface film coming out that looks awesome and disturbing, I kind of
Mhm.
hope that there's no Batman in there. Like,
I think our wish might come true on that.
which is awesome. I think that when a publisher can kind of have an editorial thing, like where they want a comic to come out to have some sort of symbiosis with a film or television series,
Mhm.
that can oftentimes be a thing that kind of falls on its Clayface. And this one, I think, lives well and interestingly outside of whether or not there's a movie coming out. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I think Jude Ellison Doyle does good stuff, and I want to kind of do a better job of tracking down what exactly their work is. I think they're doing Neighborhood Watch right now, but I'm not sure.
Be Not Afraid
Okay.
is one of them that I really was enjoying. And there are a lot of covers. Dead Teenagers,
Yep, that's one of Sean's favorite books.
Hello Darkness, Catacomb of Torment.
Oh, you know, Sarah
Neighbors.
Gailey is doing
Yeah.
Neighborhood Watch, which is an artist or a writer. I get kind of confused. So
But Neighbors it's also a similar title there. Neighbors is the one with the two communities, I think. Going back
yeah,
and forth.
if you like keeping your finger on the pulse of kind of like Gotham, but are maybe a little tired of Batman specifically, this is a great way to be able to get into that. Like, it's a great villain examination without being overly super heroic. So just a cool thing that you can do with horror in the big two.
All right, buddy. I have a crab cruise to get to.
Oh
pretty soon
my
here.
gosh. That's why we were talking about crabs at the beginning of this, everybody. So if you live in the Pacific Northwest, Django, well, why don't you tell the folks what this is?
Well, this is our podcast.
Perfectly Acceptable
Perfectly
Podcast.
Acceptable podcast.
You can send an
Comics Place
email
presents.
to us at jeff@thecomicsplace.com. Django built that specially for us.
Just jeff@thecomicsplace.com goes directly to the podcast. You would think it would be Jeff at Comics Place Presents podcast, but that seemed
Nah.
silly. We just kept it simple, straightforward.
Jeff
something
is
easy to
my favorite
remember.
comicshop.com.
Yep. Jeff dot is my favorite with a U.
Mhm.
Yep. Jeff at thecomicsplace.com. You can get your thing read out loud here. And if you come watch it, you can watch it get read out loud here.
I want photographic evidence of the crab that you put in your body on this cruise, buddy.
Okay. I'll take a picture of it
Multiple,
and I'll
please.
send it to you. And if I remember, we can show it on the podcast next week.
Yes.
That's
I
called a
will
cliffhanger.
remember. Yeah. Tune in next week to see exactly how much crab Django puts in himself this afternoon, evening. Thank you for hanging out with us a little bit earlier than normal. God, I want some crab. Maybe they got an open seat. Sam and I'll see you in an hour.
Can't wait.
God, that's going to be good. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you always to Will for writing in. And then a huge thank you to Andrew Carlson for editing. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Whoop, whoop,
That's for you, buddy.
whoop, whoop.